Well, nice meeting you. I mean, hey, man, you might be the next I see on TV, so nice meeting you. My name is Brian. I'm from Ohio. Yes, sir. Listen,
my wife's a good source of material.
That's what's good. That's what's good. But I'm going to tell you. Right now, that's prettier than you. Come on, wait. So than AK Dory. Look right here.
See, that's honestly, as a comedian, that's kind of the I would say it's one of the more frustrating things because most of the stuff that we do is choreographed, planned out, written, thought about. I mean, I have a ton of jokes. I love, like, just old school, like, dad jokes.
Say it.
Okay. Funniest joke I've heard in a while. Never heard this one before. It's like a story joke. Okay. So, man and a woman, married together 50 years. 50 years of married bliss. Yeah. Now, for that 50 years, that man has kept a footlocker at the end of his bed. Mm-hmm. Then that footlocker, he's got a padlock on it. His wife has never been allowed in that footlocker. So, their 50th anniversary is coming up. And he's like, honey, what would you like for your wedding anniversary? She goes, you know what I'd like? I'd like to know what's in that footlocker. 50 years we've been together, I've never once got to see inside that footlocker. He's like, you know what, honey? For our 50th anniversary, I'll let you see inside that footlocker. She's like, really? He goes, yes, I will. So he unlocks the footlocker. She opens it up. First thing she sees, some of the kids' clothing, some baby booties, some pictures. And she's like, oh, it's just like, these are keepsakes. And she moves that aside. Then the next thing she sees, this is what surprises her. She sees 2 eggs and a stack of cash like this thick. And she's like, what's that? And he goes, what's what? And she's like, well, first of all, what's the deal with the 2 eggs? And he goes, all right. He goes, that's what I've been keeping from you for the last 50 years. And she's like, well, explain. He goes, listen, it's been like this. After we got married, it wasn't too long after we got married, to be honest with you, I thought I was going to have an affair. I thought I might cheat on you.
Oh.
He goes, but instead of having an affair, what I did is I came up with an idea to prove to myself that I had willpower and I had the fortitude not to cheat on you. I bought me an egg and I put that egg in this footlocker. And I said, as long as that egg's there, I know that I've been a good man and I've never cheated on you. And she's like, oh my God, so you mean in the 50 years we've been together, you've only thought about cheating on me twice, but you've never done it? And he's like, well, yeah. And she's like, well, then what's that stack of cash for? And he goes, oh, that? He goes, listen, every time I got to a dozen eggs, I sold some of them.
Okay. He got me.
How's it going, everybody? Oh, shit, we can do better than... How's it going, everybody? Come on, let's hear it. All right, everybody, do me a favor one more time. Give it up for your band, Talk Less, everybody. Give it up for your host, Steve Prince. And one more time for your feature act, Mr. Patrick Madison. Oh, thank you guys so much for coming out tonight to my, this is the first time hosting here. Hosting. All right, edit that out. This is the first time I've ever headlined here at the Funny Stop Comedy Club. This is my home club. Matter of fact, I'm coming up on my 6-year anniversary of doing stand-up. It'll officially be 6 years here at the beginning of November. So what a better time than to shoot my first comedy special. So let's see, who here is friends and family? Let's hear you. Who here just fucking wandered in for the night? You're like, how much? What the fuck's going on? Oh no, yes, thanks all for coming. It is, I started doing stand-up 6 years ago, and it was funny. it was all because I was here at the Funny Stop Comedy Club watching a show of a local comic who was from Akron, Ohio. He went to Hoban, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And same alma mater as my wife, you know, and this guy had gone on to be a headliner, and he was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and had done a bunch of other stuff, and his name was Chris Clem. And that night, I met him after the show, and we talked, and then I had like a podcast, like and a web series that I was doing with a friend of mine, and we had interviewed him for the show. And they were like, oh, you should, you know, I was like, I'm interested in stand-up. They're like, you should try stand-up. So I went to my wife, and I'm like, hey, by the way, I think I'm going to try stand-up comedy. And my wife's like, really? She goes, yeah, because here's the thing. I used to be a singer when I was younger, and I had a band. And she goes, you remember when you were younger and you had that band? I'm like, yeah. She goes, you remember how in between sets you used to tell jokes to the crowd? And I'm like, yeah. She goes, that shit was not funny. I would highly not recommend you try stand-up comedy. God love her. And then we fast forward to my 40th birthday, about a little less than a month after I'd started doing stand-up. And I was really enjoying it. First night I did stand-up comedy. My son came with me, my oldest son, and we were doing it in a basement of a bar in Kent State, Ohio. And I get there because here's the thing, my friend signed me up without telling me. He's like, he comes to work, he goes, by the way, he goes, I signed you up for comedy. I was like, oh shit. And I'm like, you did? He goes, yeah. And then here's the thing, I thought you had to have like 20 minutes worth of material to start with. And he's like, no, they said you only need to do 5 minutes. And I'm like, I could screw around for 5 minutes. I could figure out what to do for 5 minutes. So we went to that little basement. And we get down there, and I don't know what to expect. And what I see that night is a room full of 15 stand-up comics and one poor bastard who wandered into that basement not knowing what the hell was going on. And we told dick jokes for 5 minutes. And that's where it went from there. And then fast forward to January 21st of 2019 is my 40th birthday, and I finally get some family to come out and see one of my shows. And they come out to that same bar, and luckily that night the show was not in the basement, it was up on their main stage. And it was me and a few other comic friends of mine, and I had my mother show up that night, my brother and my wife and several others, and I do my act, and at the end of the night me and my wife were walking out of the bar, and I was like, so what did you think, honey? And she goes, wow, your friend Ray was really funny. Really? She's like, yeah. She goes, but you need to get to the fucking point. I had apparently not learned joke structure yet. So yeah, but no, she has been a staunch supporter of me doing this for the last 6 years, and I could have not made it to this point without her. So yeah, so here I am. She's my first special. Oh, man. And then shortly after that, we hit the pandemic. What a bunch of bullshit that was. Oh, my God. Right? Here's the thing. I actually flourished during the pandemic. They shut everything down. I got busy. I started doing shows for tens of people. Not because they weren't showing up, because that was the spacing at the time. Actually, what I really got into during the pandemic was collecting masks. Oh, I shit you not. I had 78 masks. You know where the bulk of them came from? Fast food restaurants. Because does everybody remember during the pandemic how all the fast food restaurants had made their employees wear masks? Well, they had tailored masks for each fast food restaurant. McDonald's had a black mask with a yellow smile. Kentucky Fried Chicken one just said Kentucky Fried Chicken on it a bunch of times. Rally's was checkered. Okay, I went around to all these places and I got these masks. I won't say if they were new or not, but I got these masks, and that was my fun during the pandemic, was collecting these masks. And at the peak of it, during the pandemic, we towards the end of it, we had a funeral to go to. And you still were required to wear masks at that time. And we get there, and it's me and my wife and our kids, and we're all in the van.
and we're getting ready to go inside. And my wife's like, does everybody got their masks? And everybody's like, yeah, we got our masks. She's like, okay, we all put our masks on. And my wife turns to me, and I'm wearing my McDonald's mask with the big yellow smile on it. And my wife's like, oh my God, we are at a funeral. That is not appropriate. Like, you were right. And I could have flipped it around, but instead I turned it upside down. I'm like, is that appropriate? I actually used to do that joke and actually bring the mask with me and wear it and like flip it upside down. But I've since, I'd like to say I lost the masks and all the other ones I collected, but they're all neatly framed at the house now. But the other crazy thing I did during the pandemic is I caught myself on fire. Yeah, okay, here, this is a good one. So during the pandemic, I was sent home from my work, and I had to work from home. And my work, here's the thing, I had to be up at 7 a.m. to be on the computer, but my area I worked in didn't pick up till like noon. So I would hook up my fan to my mouse with a string, and I let the oscillation just move the mouse around my desk, and I just slept on the end of my bed. But sometimes I'd get up. I was also running an online cooking show for fun during the pandemic, so I was coming up with new recipes to do. And one morning I'm like, I'm going to make an Irish stew, and I'm going to film this, but I'm testing stuff out. And what you do, you get the beef and you braise it first. And so I took in a cast iron skillet, and I put a little bit of oil of it, in the pan, and I was going to throw my meat in there with the flour, and I was just going to braise the beef. But all of a sudden, I get a phone call upstairs in my office, and it's my work. And if I don't answer it, I'm fucked. So I run upstairs like a responsible person, and I answer the phone, and when I come down to a grease fire. Yeah, and here's the thing. I know what to do during a grease fire, okay? You take some baking soda or some baking powder, you throw it in the pan, that puts it out. You don't put it in water. You don't do that shit. It'll explode, okay? So at that moment, I forget all the fucking sense in my head. And all I can see is, here's the stove, and there's a door right next to the stove that goes out into the driveway. I'm like, I could make it to that door and throw the pan out the door. I take 2 steps, all the oil in the fire splashes up out of the pan, catches me on fire. I throw it out the door, slip on the grease, fall back on the stairs, bust my back, and melt my shorts to my pants. And 3rd-degree burns all the way down my arm. Yeah, and you know what I did at that point? I used to be a paramedic. I didn't panic. I called up my wife. I told her what supplies to bring me. And then I immediately got on the phone and told my work that I could not work for the rest of the day because I had caught myself on fire. And my work's like, how the hell did you manage that? And here's the thing. If they would have known what I was doing, I could have got fired. So I did the next sensible thing. I blamed it on my son. Oh yeah, I literally told my work that he's 20 now, but I think he was like, so this was like, so this is about 5 years ago. He would have been 15. I literally told my work that my son was making an Irish stew and he caught the house on fire. He was so pissed at me too. He goes, why would you blame me? I'm like, they don't know you. You're not going to get drug into my work in question. Don't worry about it. So, yeah. But then there was also a lot of downtime during the pandemic. We dealt with a lot of downtime. It was really boring, especially with 3 kids stuck in the house the entire time. So I think that after I set myself on fire, obviously I wasn't cooking anymore. So the most we did was we ate a lot of cereal during the pandemic. And it really got me thinking. During the pandemic, I was thinking, you know what? Man, when I was a kid, cereal was so much better, right? As an adult, cereal sucks. Here's the thing, I get it. You could go out and buy kids cereals as an adult, but you're supposed to be responsible. So it's like Cracklin' Oat Bran or Grape Nuts or some bullshit like that when you're an adult. But I think they should make like adult versions of kids cereals. Wouldn't that be great? Like a Lucky Charms for adults. Think about it. You could still have Lucky on the box. He'd look a little more haggard. He'd be like clutching a bottle of Jameson's. We call the cereal, instead of Lucky Charms, we call it Not So Lucky in Life Charms. There wouldn't be any of those little marshmallows, but there would be that shitty wheat cereal, just be coated in Ambien, okay? That way, every time you have that sad bowl of adult cereal at 2 a.m. watching your cartoons, you'll go to bed at least dreaming of purple horseshoes and pink clovers. Played a lot of board games during the pandemic. One of my favorites was Sorry. Who remembers the game Sorry? Love that game. And I was like, they should make an adult version of Sorry. And then it turns out they did. The company made an adult version. It's a real thing. I actually have it at home. Still haven't taken it out of the plastic. But the name of the game is called Sorry Not Sorry. Has anybody heard of it? It's a real thing. It's an adult version of Sorry. It has consequences. You have these cards and stuff like that. And here's the thing. I really need to crack it open, play it, to figure out, how it works. But when I first heard about it, all I could think of is, what would be cool? If it was like when you're playing it and you draw a card, it's a Sorry Not Sorry card. The card would say something like, tell your friend something that you did that you're not sorry about. Hey, Dan. You remember that time your dog shit in your bed? That was me. Sorry, not sorry. Move back 5 spaces. But I was glad when it was all over. I gained some weight during the pandemic too. But here's the thing, coming out the back end of it, I was in my 40s now, and my wife had been pushing me for a while to go see a doctor and get myself taken care of. Because here's the thing, my wife goes to like every doctor's appointment, like everything. And I hadn't seen a doctor in 12 years. I can tell by your silence, you're like, fuck yeah, you're the fucking picture of health. Why would you need to see a doctor? You're an Adonis. Here's the thing. Yeah, I did not go to a doctor because I didn't want to go to the doctor. I hadn't seen a doctor in 12 years because my doctor had retired to, of all things, go become a tour guide for Disneyland. This is not a lie. At some point, malpractice insurance got so bad, my doctor was like, fuck it. I'm not taking care of kids anymore, but I will dress up like a mouse and chase them around the park. So I was without a doctor. And here's the thing. In my mind, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If there's not a doctor around to tell you have it, you don't have it. So I was fine with that. My wife's like, no, you cannot continue to live like this. And I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? And she goes, here's the thing. She goes, I got a good doctor. I'll set you up with my doctor. You could go see her. She'll take care of you. And I worked in the medical profession for quite a while. I was a paramedic. Yeah, I used to actually, and this is where I ended up. What do you think about it? I used to save lives. Now I tell dick jokes. Shows you how good saving lives pays people. But no, yeah, so I was like, okay, I'll go see your doctor. She goes, yeah, I got a good doctor. Her name's Dr. Peters. I'm like, that's interesting. So she sets up an appointment, and last year, about February last year, I went and saw Dr. Peters, and I got a physical. Physical turned out pretty good. All right, actually, I had good cholesterol. A lot of the numbers came back good. But then with the blood work, there was one glaring thing that did not come back good, and that was my A1C. It turns out I had an A1C at 12.5. Yeah, if you don't know what that means, I turned out to be a type 2 diabetic. Yeah, I love it. Silence, because you're all like, yeah, surprising. The fat guy got diabetes? No fucking way. Shocking. But here's the thing. My father was a diabetic, and he had the issues too, so I was always kind of afraid it might happen. So the day I found out about it, I freaked out. I decided that day that I was going to give up everything detrimental to get my life back in order. So I gave up pop, pasta, potatoes, rice, sugar, sex. Yeah, that last one was not my choice. Yeah, apparently I was, at least apparently, ignoring something that both my wife and Dr. Peters both knew very well was irrelevant. And that is that I had erectile dysfunction. Oh, I hear one O and I hear every guy just tighten up in the room. Here's the thing, guys. Nothing to be embarrassed about. I know. A lot of guys are like, oh my God, you have a broke dick? Yes. But it is nothing to be ashamed of. You get older, shit happens in life. You got one or two choices, people. You either face it and take care of it, or you ignore it. Damn it, I took care of it, okay? Matter of fact, Dr. Peters lived up to her name. She prescribed me a wonder drug. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Viagra. It's amazing. First time I got it, man. First time I got my bottle of Viagra. Here's the thing. It's not necessarily the story you'd expect the first night you got that bottle of magic. So I get this bottle of Viagra, and I also get my blood pressure pills she put me on, and I bring them home for the night. And I have a show the next morning. So when I get home, I take the pills out of the bag, and I'm going to take them up to the bedroom, but instead I get distracted that I have to leave, and I set them right in front of the TV in the living room and ran out the door to go perform a show, and I knew I wouldn't be back until the next day because it was out in Virginia. All right? Now here's the problem. I left 2 bottles, one with Viagra in it, sitting out in the open, and I have a house full of teenagers. Teenagers at the time. Either way. So I come back the next morning from the show, and the bottle of Viagra is gone. Yeah. And here's the funny thing. It was not the kids that I was worried about. I have a dog who eats the weirdest shit. Yeah. I have this Australian Shepherd who eats anything she could get her hands on. She has eaten so many tubes of chapstick at our house that to this day, every time she shits, her butt glistens and smells like coconut. If my lips get dry, I don't buy them anymore. I just chase her around the house. I'm like, come here, girl. No, but seriously, I freaked because those pills could have actually harmed her. And she likes to hide behind the couch, so I took the couch and I slid the couch away, and I look behind the couch, and there she is with a bottle of Viagra with the top chewed off. And I'm like, oh my God. And I start counting. There was 30 pills in the bottle. There was 30 pills laying on the floor. She didn't eat a single one of them. She didn't even lick one of them. She didn't touch them. I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. And that's when I realized that apparently she could read. She looked at the label, and she looked at me, and she's like, you've been through enough. I couldn't do that to you. It's like, I'll be damned. She really is man's best friend. No, but man, that Viagra's good stuff. The first time I took it, man, it was like the first time Mario found a mushroom and became Super Mario. Oh yeah, I took the top off that bottle, like you pound that little block, it came out of there, I took it, there were sound effects and everything. It was all like, whoop, whoop, whoop. I'm like, holy shit. Oh my God, this is amazing. I'm going to go storm a castle and save a princess. Peach doesn't know what's coming to her. I'm bringing her to the Mushroom Kingdom. For you older folks who don't get the Mario reference, it's kind of like the first time Pac-Man found a Pac pellet. I really want you to think about that. Have you not ever wondered why Miss Pac-Man always runs across the screen so much faster than him? You always thought all along that he'd eat one of those little pellets and he was eating those ghosts. No, he'd eat a pellet, get super horny, and just start humping ghosts into oblivion. He just comes up behind him, bop, 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 boom, and just eyeballs, and that's all that's left. They'd have to go back to that little changing room in the middle of the screen just so they get more clothes on. No, but it's good stuff. And here's the funny thing: since I had this and I've been talking about it at shows, I've had guys who will start yelling out during my shows. They're like, "Hey, you should try Cialis," and I'm like, "That is enthusiastic." And after about a dozen times, you're like, there's something to this. So I actually called up Dr. Peters, and I'm like, Dr. Peters? She's like, yes, Mr. Stone. And I'm like, hey, I got a question. I need to re-up my next prescription, and I was wondering, do you mind if I try Cialis instead? She's like, yeah, Mr. Stone, I don't care. You can try Cialis if you want. do you just mind me asking, is there any specific reason why you'd like to try Cialis? And I'm like, oh yeah, a good friend recommended it to me. Yeah, because I am not telling my doctor at this point that I'm crowdsourcing my dick problems at comedy shows. Yeah, that's right, Dr. Peters. 4 out of 5 drunk men yell Cialis. Matter of fact, after a show one night, it was here at this club. I'm at the door, saying goodnight to everybody. And one of the gentlemen who had yelled Cialis had actually been at the show and heard me do this bit. And he come up to me and he goes, hey, come here. Come here. I'm like, why are we whispering? I'm like, we just talked about my dick for like 20 minutes. I think we know each other a little bit more at this point. We have a connection. What's up? He goes, hey, I was one of the guys who yelled Cialis. I'm like, thank you. Seriously, thank you. But, okay, yeah, no, what's up? And he goes, hey, just wondering though, have you tried Cialis and aspirin yet? And I'm like, just looking at him, and then it clicked. And if you don't know what aspirin is good for, it's a blood thinner. And I'm like, oh. It's like, because what Cialis does is it gets blood to go in a certain direction to a certain place. And when the blood's thinner, it just gets there that much faster. Yeah, here's the thing. I'm intrigued at this point, but I'm also afraid if I try it, my heart's going to explode. So this is a real conversation I had with Dr. Peters. I call her up because there's a thing called adverse drug effects. You can take several drugs and you never know. They could have a bad reaction with each other. I don't want that to happen. But I'm also, like I said, very intrigued. So I call up Dr. Peters and I'm like, hey, have you ever heard of anybody taking aspirin, like a low-dose aspirin and a Cialis together? And she goes, honestly, Mr. Stone, no. But she goes, I see where you're going with this. Like, all right. And I'm like, and she's like, well, there is actually no adverse effects that you would probably have from taking them together, but I don't know exactly how it would work. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Go give it a try. What now? Did my doctor just prescribe me sex with my wife? Could you write me a script for that? I want to keep that bitch in my back pocket. I want to be able to come home at 2 a.m. one night and be like, hey, honey, wake up. She'll be like, what? I'm so tired. I'm like, yeah, listen, but I got a doctor's note. Let's go. No, but it is good stuff. That's Cialis, man. Woo! But no, here's the thing. It was a crazy ride after finding out I was a diabetic. But I cracked down hard, and I did. I gave up a lot of stuff. And by May of last year, I got myself to drop 60 pounds and got my A1C down to a 6.5. Thank you. I know for those of you who are not clapping, you're like, hey, fat boy, the finish line's right over there. You are not done yet. You're right, I'm not. I still got a ways to go, and I'm working on it. But my wife's like, listen, you really did. You've done such a good job so far, but you just honestly don't seem as happy as you used to be. And I'm like, no shit. It's like I had to give up happiness to get here, okay? What do you expect? And she's like, I'm like, I would kill for sugar right now, okay? If there was a birthday party tonight and somebody brought out a cake, you'd be in trouble. I would jump you at the door. All right? But I'm like, so I asked her, I'm like, so what are you saying? She's like, well, is there anything new you'd like to try? Anything you've never done before? That maybe something fun, exciting, different? And that's when we were hanging out at like a little dive bar on a Wednesday night right before the 4th of July. And we were hanging out with our friend and her husband, my wife's friend and her husband, and they were like, hey, guess what, guys? We're going to go to Michigan next week for a concert, and we're going to try edibles for the first time. Who here's down with the edibles? I'm not a cop. Come on, people. Here's the thing. I am a middle-aged white man, and she's a middle-aged white woman, and both of us had never done drugs in our entire life. Drinking? Definitely. Pot, no, okay? But I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. And out of nowhere, my wife's like, that sounds awesome. Like, holy shit, 28 years together and never once have you been like, I want to smoke pot. And she's like, well, I never wanted to smoke anything, but I'd maybe be down for eating something. Really? And here's the thing. I just found out I was a diabetic, and they don't generally make this shit like kale chips, you know, people? When you think of edibles, what do you think of? Brownies, gummies, cookies, okay? Shit that a diabetic should not be eating. But I'm like, you know what? Maybe we should do this. And that's when my wife's friend's like, she goes, well, you know what? We don't really have to wait till we go to Michigan. I do have a pot cookie at home that I have been saving, and we could just get together this weekend if you want, and we could share it. And I'm like, really? Really? You got a pot cookie we could share? And here's the thing. My dumb monkey brain, because I've never actually done an edible before, the first thing I think of is one of those giant fucking cake cookies from the mall. Like with green frosting on it and like the shape of a pot leaf. So now I'm thinking of sugar and I'm getting all excited. She's like, oh, there. She goes, no, it's like this big. She goes, I got it in tinfoil. It's in my freezer at home. I'm like, your freezer? That's a weird place to keep a pot cookie. And she was like, well, I got it a year ago. Yeah, a year old. I'm like, you know that shit's not like the top of a wedding cake, right? You don't wrap it in tinfoil and throw it in your freezer and bring it out on the 1-year anniversary when you thought you were going to get high. That's when her husband spoke up and he goes, hey, I actually got some gummies that we can try if that doesn't work. And I'm like, really? He goes, yeah. He goes, I got them at a concert. I'm like, cool. He goes, yeah, I got them a year ago. Like, fuck me, you guys don't. Let's see here. You were all like, you want to get high? Hell yeah. When do you want to do it? I don't know. Akron, Ohio, a year from now? 4th of July weekend? Sounds about right. Think we should be primed for it? I'm like, shit. Oh my God. Okay, well, you guys are the ones with the stuff. I guess we're going to do this. So we start making plans to have this, like, you know, this little get together. And that's when my wife's friend kind of gets this panic look on her face. And she goes, oh my God, I just thought of something. I'm like, what's that? And she goes, you know, none of us have ever been high before. And I'm like, yeah, I get that, you know. And she's like, well, thing is, I was just thinking, you know, we live on the lake, and if we're going to do it, you know, we're going to do it at our place, right? And I'm like, yeah, you guys are the ones with the year-old pot. I guess you're the destination to be. And she's like, well, my point is, what if one of us gets, like, so high that we actually walk into the lake and drown? Fuck me. I got a little brother who's been high since he was 13, and he's never just wandered into a body of water before. I think we'll be okay. Like, what fucked up PSA from the 1980s did you see that I missed? Like, we all remember the one with the frying pan, this is your brain on drugs? Yeah? Or the one with the dad sitting, he like walks in, kid's sitting in bed with a cigar box full of joints, and he's like, where'd you learn how to do this? I learned about watching you, Dad. Which, by the way, that fucker doesn't look like he smoked a joint a day in his life. But like, I never saw the PSA where it was like a bunch of like teenage kids at a sleepaway camp sitting around a campfire, and they're like, hey, Bobby is really high right now, but he has not passed his swim lessons yet, and I am concerned. And that's where my wife said the most brilliant thing I heard all night. She's like, well, we could just all wear life jackets. Fuck me. I got this great picture in my head now of 4 middle-aged white people, green hair, like mid-40s to early 50s, sitting around a campfire, okay, on a patio, like 10 yards from the water, wearing bright orange life vests, just waiting to get high for the first time. Oh my God. So we finish making our plans for the evening, and we all disperse, and the 4th of July weekend comes, and I'm driving over to the lake house, and I get a phone call from my wife who's already over there with her friends. She's like, hey, do you think you could go find some edibles for us to do? And I'm like, I thought they had some shit. And she's like, well, they're just not really sure about the stuff that they got. And I'm like, really? What was their first clue? Did they find the expiration date on their pot? And she's like, well, could you go, find us some edibles? Do you think you can do that? And like I said, I've never done this before. Luckily, I did say that I've had a little brother, and our last name is Stone, so he lived up to his name. And he pointed me in the direction of where I needed to go, and I get to this, dispensary, and I'm talking to the guy, behind the counter. He's pretty cool, he's, kind of looks like a mixture between, Tommy Chong and, Arlo Guthrie, you definitely look like the kind of guy I should be buying this from. And so he shows me what to get, and I'm getting ready to buy these edibles, and I get a phone call from my wife, and she's like, hey, you got the stuff yet? Why are we whispering? Verizon doesn't fucking care. Nobody is tapping our phones, okay? She's like, I don't want to get in trouble for this. And I'm like, nobody cares. And she's like, well, are you getting it? I'm like, yeah, I'm paying right now. I'm getting the card out. I'm getting ready to... Stop! Holy shit, what was that for? She goes, do not put it on the credit card. I'm like, they're not charging us extra for putting it on the card. She goes, stop. Why? I just don't want to get in trouble for this. And I'm like, they're not. She goes, listen, if you're going to do it, put it on your card because I am not going to jail for you. I'm like, fine. I hung up the phone. I looked at the guy behind the counter. I go, well, if it's going to be this way, I go, could you at least make it more authentic? And could we go behind the building in the alley and do this? Sure as shit. He was like, okay. We're around out in the back alley behind the dispensary. He even brought the card scanner. I'm swiping. He's handing the shit to me. Feeling all sneaky. I'm like, I'm excited. So I'm driving over to the lake house, and I got my edibles. I got this nice big fat sack of gummies. And I'm getting over to the lake house, and I get there, and the guy told me, you should eat some food first. You want to eat some food? Don't want to do it on an empty stomach? I'm like, okay. So I went inside and made everybody some pizza. We ate, and then everybody headed out to the patio to get settled in. We all put our life jackets on. Safety first. And then we all sit down, and I pull out this bag of gummies. I crack it open, and everybody reaches inside the bag and takes a handful out. This is not part of the joke. This is real. We all took a handful out. We've never done this before. So we each got a handful of gummies, and we all just pop them in. And now we wait. I swear to God, it was an hour had passed, and we're all sitting here just around this fire, and my wife was locked eyes with me, right where you are. And she's like, are you feeling anything yet? And I'm like, holy shit, am I ever? Oh my God, I'm sweating, my eyes are blurry, and I am dizzy as shit right now. And my wife's like, that sounds awesome. And I'm like, no, it's not. Oh, I seriously think I fucked up. I'm looking at the bag. I'm like, these aren't edibles. I bought regular gummies. I'm having a diabetic reaction. Oh my God, how was I supposed to know that Haribo doesn't make edibles? Here's the funny thing. We did try edibles that night, but like I said, you were all here from Ohio, and we all know that Ohio didn't get legal weed until December of last year, right? So the only thing to get at the time, if you didn't have a medical marijuana card, was this shit called Delta 8. All right? And it's kind of bogus, if you ask me, because it's not really the same potency as the real stuff. So here's the thing. I get to this dispensary, and this guy sells me 4 gummies. Each one's in a bag about this big. It's like a little fat gummy. On the bag, it said 80 milligrams. I don't know what the fuck that means. So I take them, and I get together with everybody. We all take that one gummy, eat that stale-ass cookie, and then we sat around the fire. And I swear to God, the whole experience that night was me and my wife's friend's husband trying to figure out what my wife and her friend were laughing about for 2 solid hours. And we get home that night, and my wife's getting into bed. And she's like, how are you feeling? And I'm like, eh. She goes, right now, everything for me is just kind of like, wow. I'm like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. She was like, no, I got to drink a few beers and felt like this hours ago. She goes, I don't think I'm going to do this again. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, I guess I'm not going to try edibles again, because I didn't want to do them alone. So here we go, fast forward to October of last year. I'm doing a show out in Cleveland, Ohio. All right? And this is my first experience with actual real edibles. And I'm doing a show, and after the show, the booker comes up to me and he's like, hey, anybody want to have some edibles? I was just up in Michigan, I got some edibles. And I'm like, ooh, here. Why not? And all I had to go on was my first experience. And that first experience, it was like over an hour for any kind of effect. And I'm like, you know what? I'll probably take an edible and I'll drive back to Akron. And by the time I hit the couch, I can chill and watch some Netflix. This will be good. So I'm like, yeah, I'll try. And the guy's like, well, how much you want? And I'm like, well, what's the milligrams on them? And I still don't know what the fuck that means, but I wanted to not sound like a dork, okay? And he's like, oh, he goes, they're 20 milligrams a gummy. I'm like, oh, give me 2. And I took both of them right there. And then I started to drive back to Akron, Ohio. And I don't know where I was in the drive back to Akron, Ohio when the earth stood still. Like literally, the earth stretched out before me. And I could see my speedometer said 65, but I thought I was crawling on my stomach at that point. I mean, everything was just going slow. So here's the thing. I don't drink and drive. I don't do anything like that. I'm really straight edge on this stuff. So I freak. And I get the car off the expressway, and I ditch it off at a Speedway gas station. And then I'm like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sit here, and I'm going to drink coffee, and I'm going to do scratchers until this shit goes away. And I'm sitting in my car, and I'm drinking coffee, which, by the way, later on, people were like, why the fuck did you drink coffee? I'm like, I don't know. I thought it would help. So I'm in the car, and it's just like, oh, the only thing that's going through my brain at that moment is, okay, I have adult sons. 2 of them could drive here, and they could save their father. Like, one could drive my car back, the other one could talk me down. So, almost an hour had gone by, and the fog had finally gone away, and I'm looking around at my surroundings, and that's when it hit me. I'm at the Speedway gas station right next to my fucking house. The shit who sold me the coffee sees me every damn morning before work. I walked inside, I'm like, you little bastard. And he's like, dude, he goes, you look like you were having a good time. I wasn't going to ruin it for you. I'm like, that is fine, but you know how much I lost? Edibles is pretty good. That is the moral of that story. But I'll tell you, after everything last year, after finding out I was a diabetic and all the stuff I was going through, I'll tell you this much. I honestly just want to lose weight and be healthy for the right reasons. Not so much the diabetes or my wife or my kids. I honestly just want to be able to see my penis again. Oh yeah, things have gotten dire. I have had to start sending dick pics of myself to myself. Because it is way easier than trying to climb up on a wet toilet after a shower to catch a glimpse in the mirror. Oh, if you're a big boy, you know what I mean. It's hard. You get up there, you're on that toilet seat, there's water on it, you're wet, your knees are shaking like you're a baby deer. I'm bent back like it's the Matrix, trying to catch angles. I feel like the crocodile hunter. I'm like, all right, time to go looking down under. Shit. Matter of fact, who here is fans of the Ninja Turtles? Hell yeah, that's why my wife's nickname for my penis is Raphael. Yeah, because it's stealthy, it's rarely ever seen, and when it does come out, it makes her sigh. It's because it's wet. All right, people. Like, why did he try that one during his special? Why do they make them so squishy? Are you okay, sir? Do you need some water? Oh, man. All right, let's see here. You know what? So, honestly, this is a special evening for me, like I said. This is my first comedy special taping, okay? And to commemorate this night, there's somebody special that I would like to bring up on stage, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, I'd actually like to bring my father up here on stage. Yeah. Oh, it's real. Ladies and gentlemen, my father, Chris Stone. It was a dream of mine to bring out my father when I taped my first comedy special to roast him, but unfortunately we roasted him 5 years ago. Thank you. No, my dad sadly passed away back in 2019 before the pandemic at the age of 62. And he only got to see one of my comedy shows back when I was still young and only doing about 5-10 minutes of material. And the thing is, my dad loved dark humor, loved it, okay? So I do some jokes about my father, and I figured what better way to do it tonight than to actually bring him out here and have him be present for some of these fucked up jokes. All right. So, no, ladies and gentlemen, my dad, Chris Stone, here's the thing. We got him cremated. Okay, first of all, right here, this shit right here is proof that before you die, you need to plan your fucking death better, okay? Oh, yeah. You need to, not only do you need to have a will, but you need to plan out your own funeral, or else your kid's going to get a hold of you. He's going to cremate your ass and put you in a Star Trek urn. He's even going to take you and get the top of it signed by famous people. Oh, yeah. This is signed by John Delancey from Star Trek, the guy who played Q. That was an interesting story in its own. Yeah. But the funny thing is the first time when I was getting it signed, I was talking to the actor, and he was like, "I would be honored to sign your father's urn." And I'm like, first of all, I am not dragging my father's ashes to a convention to have it, signed. I thought, I'll just take the lid off, and I'll take that with me, and we'll get that signed. So I take the lid off, and I don't know if you've ever had anybody cremated or looked inside of an urn, but it's very interesting. First of all, their ashes aren't just loose in the jar. They're in a bag. They're in a bag that's sealed. It's what's in the bag that kind of fucked me up. It's not his ashes that did. There's a little metal tag in here with some neatly folded instructions. No, seriously. Instructions. And my son was present when I was opening this up, and he goes, "Dad, what are those?" And I'm like, "Apparently, they're instructions." And he goes, "Ooh, are you going to open it and find out?" I'm like, "No, I'm not going to go rooting around in my dad to find out what the instructions say." And he goes, "Well, what do you think they say?" At that point, the only thing I could think of is maybe they were instructions on how to rehydrate my father. Here's the thing, laughing up at these people, because I know he's up there laughing at them too. Some of these can get a little dark. The day he passed, my dad actually passed of it was a blood clot. He had a heart attack, survived the heart attack. 10 days later, he had a blood clot, and that's what took him out, because his heart was just too weak to handle that blood clot. And on that day, after they got him all cleaned up and we were in the room, it was me and my mother and my brother and my wife and his wife, and we're all sitting there in the room with my father. And of course, like I said, I'm a fucked up person. So I looked at them, and because the day, 2 days earlier, my dad had got off the ventilator, and he was in full recovery, And he had told me and my brother, he goes, I'm going to take all my tools and all my stuff and split it between you because I'm going to retire and I'm never going to work again. And we're like, you do whatever you want, Dad. And he goes, that's what I'm going to do. And then 2 days later, he passes. And I looked at my brother and my mother, and I swear to God, Dad said he was retiring, but this shit's too far. All he had to do was quit his job. And without skipping a beat, God loved my brother. He looked right at me and he goes, you know, the other day, our water heater broke at the house. And I'm like, yeah, I bet Dad heard that shit from his bedroom here at the hospital. He said, fuck it, I'm out. The year before he passed, he had a stroke. And while he was in the hospital, one of his favorite comic book characters was Deadpool. And I actually have a full-body Deadpool costume. And I snuck it into the hospital. And while he was asleep, I ducked into his bathroom and I put that costume on. And I came out as Fat Pool because I was still a fat fucker at that time. But I bent over his bed and I woke him up. And he had just had this stroke the day before. And it wasn't just a normal stroke. It was a take out half your body type stroke, like a Bell's palsy, like, oh. My dad rolled over in that bed and looked me up and down in that full body Deadpool costume. He goes, that's the funniest fucking thing I've seen all day. And I bent over and looked him in the eye. I said, well, somebody told me you needed a Make-A-Wish. And that you wanted to meet Deadpool. My dad said, this is great. Now help me eat these eggs. Oh, Lord. And the crazy thing was, like I said, we lost him in July of 2019. 3 months later, I lost my grandfather as well. Because, yeah, here's the thing. 2019 was a fucked up year, and I was all like, 2020 is going to be so much better. So we lose my grandfather 3 months later, and we had to start, because of this, we had to start getting things together. We actually had to sell my grandparents' house and get it up in the market. And to do that, we had to clean the entire house out. And here's the thing. My father, unfortunately, was only 62 when he passed. But my grandfather was in his 80s, and he had lived a damn good life. And he was a strong, virile man who was still cleaning his own gutters and doing his own shit in his 80s. And God love him. I was like, wow, I hope that's where I am at that age. And then I found out he was doing other stuff in his 80s. Because I started cleaning out his house, and I found his porn. You know how weird it is to find your grandfather's porn? Yeah. Here's what my grandfather's porn was. It was 2 magazines, 1 Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition, and 3 VHS tapes that had not been rewound or returned to the video store. They literally had names on these videos like Backdoor 4. Or like Mega Sluts. And here's the thing, I grew up and staying at my grandparents' house a lot. Like, I mean a lot. Like, I probably stayed the night at my grandparents like once a week because they lived right by us. And my grandfather had a lot of guns. And I mean a lot of guns. Like, everywhere. They left guns out like old people leave candy out in dishes, okay? And here's the thing, they say when you have kids around that you should hide your guns. He hid his porn way better than he hid his guns. Because never once in my life did I find his porn, but I damn sure saw his guns. So here I am as an adult, and I have found my grandfather's porn stash, and I am intrigued. But then all of a sudden, too, it brought me to a really big realization. And this is the truth. At least once a month for the past couple years, my grandfather would call me up, because I went over there and visited a lot, and hung out with my grandparents. But at least once a month, my grandfather's like, hey, could you show me how to use the remote for the VCR? And here's the thing. The only thing I thought he had was a couple videos of me and my brother at Christmas time. I'm like, oh, Grandpa's watching old family videos. This is touching. They weren't family videos, and I know what he was touching. So God bless it. I hope when I'm in my 80s, that's what I'm doing too. That's where the Cialis comes in. Oh, man. See, this is the magic of recording stuff, is I know my guy could just block this out. He's like, we'll skip through the part where your watch fucked up and you weren't able. Somebody give me the time. Huh? All right, thank you very much. Oh, shit. That's a way to get a quick laugh. You know what's funny is, okay, my dad actually is a huge Star Trek fan, like a big Star Trek fan, and that's how I thought I would honor him after he passed, because I knew he wanted to be cremated. So I'm like, I'm going to get a Star Trek urn, and that's what I'm going to do for him. But now I'm at the point where eventually we want to spread his ashes. And I thought, why not make a profit off of it? So here's what I'm going to do. Instead of spreading his ashes, I'm going to divide them up into baggies, and I'm going to have them all GC graded, and I'm going to go sell them at Star Trek conventions, and I'm going to tell people that it's atmospheric sand from the set of the episode where Kirk fought the Gorns. So somewhere out there, some nerd's got some of my dad sitting on his shelf. He's like, look what I got at the convention, Mom. Because originally I wanted to have him shot into space, but that's going to be too damn expensive. But this way I can make some money, you know. Oh, that's enough about you, old man. This year, me and my family were trying to, this is a good segment. This year, me and the family were trying to figure out what we were going to do for vacation this year. We were talking about going on a cruise. Who here, and I know who has, but who all has gone on a cruise before? Who's here done excursions on cruises? What a bunch of bullshit that is. Excursions on cruises are just expensive hillbilly shit that you could do right here in Ohio that you end up doing out in like the jungle of Mexico. Because we were sitting around the house trying to figure out what we were going to do on the cruise, and that's when my wife's like, well, let's try excursions this time. And that's when my son was like, ooh, what if we went four-wheeling around the Aztec temples? And I'm like, really? You know how much that is? We could go four-wheeling around your cousin's barn, and it's just as old. You do that right here in Ohio. That's when my other son spoke up, and he goes, well, we could go zip lining through the jungle. And I'm like, also something we could do here in Ohio. And I guarantee you the guys running it will be just as sketchy. Yeah. And then that's when my wife spoke up, and she goes, you know what I had always wanted to do? She goes, we could swim with the dolphins. Swim with the dolphins. That sounds actually like something we could do that would be fun. Especially since there's no longer a SeaWorld here in Ohio, and definitely not something we could do around here. Who here remembers SeaWorld of Ohio? Oh, I miss those mistreated animals. No, but my wife's like, yeah, swimming with the dolphins, that sounds like a blast. And I'm like, okay. And that's when my youngest son pulls out a video and hands it to his mother, and it's 15 minutes of just dolphins humping people. Like, literally, just dolphins just like, just coming up on the docks, just fucking the hell out of people. Oh, yeah. My wife was mortified. But then I looked at my sons, and then she's like, well, we're not doing that. And my boys were like, well, I don't know, I'd still do it. What we did instead is we went horseback riding, which is, yeah, honestly something we do around here too. But she got this image in her head, like, wouldn't it be romantic to just do horseback riding out like on the beach with the sand and the wind in your hair, and you're going along. It's so beautiful. No, it's not beautiful. Okay, people, it is. You know what it is? Here's what it was. We get there. First of all, they bring out my wife's horse. Now, for her, magical moment. They bring out this nice little pony. It was like her own little My Little Pony. Shit, it even had a tattoo of an ice cream cone on the back of its ass. All right? She was excited. She was like, oh my God. And I'm like, so cute. And then the guy looks at me, and he just kind of looks me up and down, and he's like, bring out Samson. I'm like, Samson, shit, that sounds ominous. And they did. They brought out a horse. I don't think it was a Clydesdale. All I know was its dick started at the top of my head. Like I was face to dick with a horse. And I obviously could not just climb up there, so I'm expecting them to give me like a boost or a little stool. They drug over like a finely crafted set of stairs for me to climb onto this horse. And I get up on him, and poor Samson looked back at me like, you fat fucker. And he too had a little tattoo on the back of his ass. It just read, error, error. But here's the thing, the whole ride was literally, and like I said, she was expecting galloping along the sand. No, it was a conga line of like 20 horses, like face to ass, with like the shittiest road apples just dropping into the ocean, like the shittiest jellyfish just floating away. So that was excursions for us. But what we mostly like to do is we like to do amusement parks. Our favorite, Cedar Point. Who here likes Cedar Point? Wow, some kind of a downturn on Cedar Point. They're like, well, since, the top thrill went down, like, fuck that place, I almost flew off one of the rides there. There used to be a log ride there that's not there anymore. The year it flipped off the track, I was the one right before the one that flipped off the track. Yeah, that was some scary stuff. But we also did Cedar Point during the pandemic, okay? And honestly, walking around an amusement park for 12 hours with a mask on is bullshit, okay? But what they did have there that day is they had caricature artists doing caricatures of all the people. And here's the thing. I was like, you know what? I think getting a caricature done for my comedy would be like a great thing to do, Because I could like put it on t-shirts, I could sell merch, I could make money off of it, use it for promotional material. So I paid like almost $50 to have a caricature done. Take a good look, everybody. How does it look? Does it look like me? Be honest. Yeah, no. Here's the thing. This was a caricature I had done at a wedding for free to a guy who really wanted tips. See how nice he made me look? You want to know what I paid $50 for? I paid $50 for this. I look like a fucking garden gnome who lost his hat. I look like I'm about to pedal a car to bedrock with my feet. I think me and my wife probably wrote about 20 jokes over this shirt. And it wasn't on a shirt, it was on a piece of paper, but I'm like, damn it, I'm putting that on a shirt. Next year I came back to Cedar Point, I even tipped that kid like $20. I'm like, thanks, that is one of the best jokes I've had in a while. No, but listen here, guys, like I said, thank you so much for coming out tonight to my special taping. Before I leave you this evening, I have one last thing. I have a little PSA, both for the men and for the women. And the first is the men. Guys, like I said before earlier, I have the ED, okay? And here's the thing. I'm not embarrassed about it. I talk about it. I'm proud of it. Well, I'm not proud of it, but I'm not embarrassed by it. Because you know what? I got to take care of. Everything's working great, okay? But there's a lot of guys out there who suffer like me, and they've never told anybody. Their wives, probably. Girlfriends, probably not. Definitely not their friends. But here's the thing, guys. You don't got to be embarrassed by it. You can be like me. You can be loud and proud. So here's your chance, guys, right now. On the count of 3, go ahead and put your hands up. Let's see it. You can be like me right here. 1, 2, 3. Let's see it. Come on. How old are you, sir? Not recreational. But if you notice, lady, the rest of them, yeah, see, that's because they can't get their hands up either. And ladies, this is for you. I told you, I've been with my wife for 29 years, okay? 29 years together. I love sometimes when I say that, I get a crowd that's just silent. I'm like, really? Nobody's saying anything about 29 years of marriage. They're like, yeah, let's see if he's happy about it first. But no, 29 years together, she is undoubtedly the most amazing thing that has ever happened to me in my life. She supports me. She lets me come out here, tell jokes, entertain you, ignore our kids. So obviously, she's tops in my book. But here's the thing, ladies. If you want to find a man that you could spend 20 more years of your life with, like I have, like you can have that. And I know how you do it. I've cracked the code. If you're dating a guy and he likes to take you out for like the same burgers, same steak joints, places he likes to go, let him take you to those places he loves, ladies, because I'll tell you why. If you could find a man who could eat the same burger for the rest of his life, yeah, he could damn well eat the same taco too. Yeah. Even those times of the month when you put the red sauce on it. Oh, yeah. End the show on a gross one. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Bill Stone. You guys have a wonderful night. By the way, I do have merch. I was going to get t-shirts made for this. My t-shirt guy actually sold his shop like 2 weeks ago. I was like, shit. So I just got these great bumper stickers that shows a Cialis with a little mushroom. It says Cialis plus little mushroom equals big mushroom. And then I have these great buttons of me in a life vest holding a taco, holding a bag of edibles. So come check me out back here. Meet with me and our host and our feature. Come talk to us. We'd love to see you. Guys, thank you so much for coming out and being part of this for me. You guys have a wonderful night.